2024. Our agenda, we're going to open public comments, have a discussion about the FY25 budget, approval of meeting minutes from several past meetings, appointment of Economic Development Committee and a Land Use Committee, relocation of ARPA money for payment of a roof repair invoice, common vicular license renewals, a town hall plaque and a time capsule, town administrator report, and new and old business. And we'll adjourn. Public comments? All right, item 3. Seeing none. Item 3. Discussion, FY25 budget.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a few things that I'm hoping to get through relative to the FY25 budget. I put together, I emailed this out as well, but I put together a budget timeline that's in your packet. And I also put the special town meeting / special town election checklist, the spreadsheet, which is a bit of an eye chart, but I hope hopefully you can read it. I sent the town administrator's recommended budget out to the advisory board, select board, departments. We had an advisory board meeting last week where we ran through, at a high level, I'd say, the FY25 budget and those scenarios we're facing. I'm not going to go through the FY24, but I think we all know the difficult decisions we've made to balance this fiscal year. For FY25, and I'm just going to go high level here, and then if you have detailed questions, I'm happy to get into as much detail as you want. So essentially, budget revenues, we've level funded. In prior forecasts, for state aid, we actually projected increases based on prior years.
Can you, just in case people are watching or they watch, just quickly explain what level funded means? So it's at
Flat.
Flat, okay. So there's no growth. It's the same number it was last year to this year, other than COLA?
So these are on the revenue side.
Okay.
So for local receipts, local aid, et cetera, for taxes, 2.5 plus 110,000 in new growth, which is, again, that new growth number is basically what we've been budgeting.
Okay, just want to make sure it's crystal clear to those that rewatch this meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. So the local receipts number is at 750. That's projected as flat, but frankly, that's probably a little more aggressive than we want to be anyway, but we are keeping it at that number. The only significant change on the revenue side is free cash. So we've stepped off of free cash from 574 to 474, a reduction of $100,000 from this fiscal year to 25. If you look at the forecast over the 3-year time frame, we've done the same each year. So each year in the 3-year from 25, 27, we projected to step off free cash $100,000 for a total of $300,000 over that period of time. And we all know the reasons why we're trying to accomplish that, so I won't elaborate too much unless, again, we want to. So other than that, like I said, local receipts, state aid, we were projecting, I think, 3 to 4% growth initially in our initial forecast, but given the recent news of lagging revenues at the state and the governor's 9C cuts that we were just notified of yesterday, we brought that back to level. Decrease in free cash, like I said, we have excluded debt payments and $318,000, which are on top of the 2.5 plus the new growth. the additional funds that we need in order to balance based on our expenditures for FY 25 is $875,473, which would be the general fund override request based on this recommended budget. On the expenditure side, like I said, high level, broad brush, health insurance, these are kind of the highlights or lowlights, depending on how you want to look at it. Health insurance budget, 5% increase, pension 6%. That pension assessment is locked in. The health insurance budget at the moment is an estimated increase. We don't have a final number for mine yet, but that's based on several conversations I've had with mine. Same with liability. General liability is estimated to increase by 10%. That's not locked in yet. That's based on conversations and meetings we've had with mine. Regional school district right now is at 11.73%. Total municipal operations budget is just shy of 3% increase. When you add in debt, it's 2.6. Municipal salaries you'll see is increasing by 5% in this FY 25 budget, restoring both the per diem firefighter during the days and the police officer position at night is included in this budget. And then debt service is based on the debt schedule. This next page goes into some of the increases in more detail. Unless you want me to go through each one, I'm going to skip over that, and we can go back to it if there's interest. So the budget forecast for 26 and 27, the projections that we've made and the assumptions we've made for expenditures, salary increases of 2%, 1% general expenses, 3% contract services, 3% for energy and utilities, and repair and maintenance, and 2% fees and membership. Neshoba Boards of Health, 7% increase, and the nurse assessment is 6%. That's based on, those have kind of been outliers, and that's based on just prior year's history. These assumptions for 26 and 27, I think are as low as we could go. To be honest, there are some areas where I would like to estimate a little more, but we're trying to keep it as tight as possible on the spending side. So for 25, it's 11.73% for the regional school district. The numbers we have from them for years 26 and 27. For 26, the number is 10%. That's a 10% increase. In 27, it's 8.15% increase. We've already gone over this. So based on those assumptions, the deficits in those out years in 26 and 27, for 26, it's roughly $650,000.
Is that with the funding of the 850 override?
Yes.
So that's in the event the town votes for fiscal year 25 to authorize an $875,000 override. The following year in 26, we're still short 651. 27, you still need another.
Correct.
Yeah, just to make sure it's.
That's correct.
And that's essentially be based off of the school increase again.
It's largely related to the school increase, not entirely, but largely based on the school increase. Yeah.
Joni?
Okay. So are you saying that if we pass a 3-year override this year, that we're still gonna come up short? Am I understanding this correctly?
No, so
What's going on?
Nope, so the $650,000 and then the $555,000 deficits in 26 and 27 are for the second and third year. So if we pass an override, the total amount all in for those overrides is just shy of $2.1 million over the 3 years. So if we decide if the advisory board, select board decide to ask for a 3-year override, and they request and pass a $2.082365 million override, then we will be balanced for that 3-year term.
Okay, and the 875,000, that's just for the municipal.
No, the 875,000 is for FY '25,
Singular.
just alone,
Yeah.
just alone.
So if you
you
were to
understand?
do each year individually, for 25, we would need the 875, for 26, we would need
Gotcha.
the 650, and, yeah,
So
but
all those three numbers
those
add up.
to the 2 million,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
You got it?
I get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the assessor ran some numbers preliminarily on the impact to tax, the average single-family tax bill. So each year you see here for 25, it's estimated increase $713.50, 26, $535, 27, $462, for a total of over the 3-year time period, about $1,700. So it's important to note, just to make sure this is explained properly, this is not the increase alone. This is just the increase related to the override amount. So that people will still experience 2.5 plus new growth plus debt excluded.
So that would be an additional,
That's an additional increase to the 2.5 plus new growth plus the debt exclusion. Just so people understand that.
And
Because I've heard, I haven't heard, but I've read some comments around, just misunderstanding, oh, they said it would cost this, but it cost that. Well, that's
Yeah,
probably
the
the
override
disconnect is,
right,
there's an override amount, which is that number. That does not include those other factors.
Yeah.
the CPA number is also.
Baked in.
This number actually includes the CTA number. So I elaborate a little bit on this around how we want to allocate the deficit between the town and the school district. The town of Groton, for example, takes the overall deficit and divides it by the proportion of spending. So they take our deficit is 875. We would split it 65-35%. So the schools would take 65, we would take 35 and have to find that within our budget. That's one way to do it. That's how Groton does it. An alternative way is to take our new available revenue, divide that by 65-35, charge it against the deficit, and then proportion it that way.
Can you maybe throw some pros and cons for doing each way? I mean,
Well, if you take the bottom line deficit number and proportion at 65-35, you're not really taking into account who's contributing to the deficit more. You're just dividing the deficit by proportional spending. So it doesn't take into account, well, the town's only contributing $77,000 to the $875,000 deficit. It's just proportioning it out based on spending.
okay,
The available revenue, if you take the available revenue number and then just divide that, then that actually takes into account who's contributing, what the school, how much the schools are contributing, how much the town is contributing to the overall number.
so that's almost a more accurate picture of how the budget is affected, it's, I guess.
I mean,
Depends on the circumstance, right?
it's probably a more equitable way to do it, but that's it's, if you look at it so let me go through the numbers. If you look at it, budget assessment increases by $906,000 for the school district. So if you look at just the new available revenue, the school district would receive $108,928.
Yeah.
And the town would receive $58,653. So with that math, the school district's deficit would be $797,000, $842.
Yeah.
And the deficit on the town side would be $77,374. If you do
It's
it,
such a huge discrepancy.
if you do it with just proportion,
The zero
It's,
sum
it's
game
it's
here.
just insane.
Yeah,
if you do it with just the proportion of the overall deficit, then the town, let's see, the school's deficit would be $569,000, and the town's deficit would be $306,000.
Does it all come out in the wash in the end, really, or not?
Well, the only thing to keep in mind is if the town of Groton is dividing it that way, they're setting their spending amount for the schools in a certain way.
Yeah.
Which it will translate proportionally to the town of Dunstable.
yeah.
So,
Right, okay.
so that's obviously something we need to consider.
Though it's still important to keep your own identity in
Yes,
practice. Like we are our own town, we
Yes.
have our own buildings,
But we want it to be beneficial to us, and if we're doing, if it's gonna benefit us to follow their practice so that, spade is a spade, then,
they just have a lot more money and voters, like for what it's worth.
yeah.
I don't know, it's a good exercise no matter what, so.
budget process you're directly involved in, so I'm not gonna elaborate on that too much. Because you know what the process is and has been. And I just kind of concluded my message that we have done and continue to do a fair amount to run as tight as we can in town hall and on the town side. We've done a variety of things to, some more difficult than others to make our budget on the town side work. Including regionalizing, including cutting and reductions, and kind of squaring away, I think, our budget process. And in order to fund the school district assessment and keep our services where we want them, I don't know another alternative.
I'm just
frankly, so.
concerned our services really can't take much more of a hit.
Yeah. So that's the high level review.
What was the advisory board sort of marching orders, if you will, like usually they get this information, are they still digesting it, or did they leave that meeting saying, you want to do a 3-year override, or?
The advisory board wanted to relay that they would like to do a 3-year override. And I think they were shooting they would like to do it early in advance of annual town meeting.
And add back in the services?
And have, wait, say that again?
So add back in the police officer and the per diem firefighter as well? Like
So it'd be
as a part of that 875 plus the,
It would be
I believe
your
so.
recommended budget, right?
Harold, that was my understanding, is that
Okay.
right? Yeah.
The way I understood it.
Yeah.
So a 3-year override for your recommended budget, not the department request.
So they may have more, meetings and review of this budget with departments. I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna go through their own process.
Mhm.
Okay.
But they did want me to relay those two things. They want a 3-year and they want,
One year early, yeah.
yeah, and they thought that the April timeframe that was initially talked about, which we'll get to a little later.
Yeah.
Made sense. They also thought that having a special town meeting in advance of that special town election was really important, and felt strongly that we needed to do that in order to make sure that people were aware of why we're asking, and
I
what the
agree.
rationale behind it.
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to just throw an election out there, but, no.
So it's two different topics, and because I saw you both nod at each other, I think tradition is important. So we will be breaking from tradition in order to get this budget through.
We are also breaking from tradition and having to ask for a 3-year, $2 million override.
Right.
So
And we did that.
special circumstances call for special occasions.
Yeah. You could also do like your standard spring town meeting and then have the next one planned for June. And that would give us a lot more time to get this information out.
Do our bylaws allow us for
For-
town meeting? I
Well,
think
June, you mean a second election?
Yeah, you could just plan a second election. Like you just build it in.
I'm not sure, I don't know that I'd do that. I don't,
So,
just automatically put in another,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know if I would, I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I think we gotta throw our time and our efforts and our energy into getting this thing passed. And see where it goes. And I've always spoken about the referendum question to draw out the voters. And I don't know, the trouble with this is that there's risk. There's risk with this. It's fraught with risk that if the override doesn't pass, both the district in April, and I think you got 28 days or 30 days from override failure before you could re-vote it, okay? The district and the town are both going to be in potentially a 1/12 budget scenario for some period of time until this override.
not till July 1 though.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be interrupted.
Yeah, not till the fiscal year rolls.
Absolutely, but when you look at the timing between you can run these overrides, if this April override fails, May is still there.
Right,
If a May override fails,
now
You're at like
now
June
we're, yeah,
25.
yeah, you're getting into,
you have 5 days before.
there is a town, South Shore, Plimpton, I think it was, voted an override 4 times because they were part of a regional school district.
Yeah. I mean, Arlington
And they
just does it. They just build it in.
Bang.
We're doing 2 votes. Belmont did it too.
So
But you
I
could build it in along with the regular. So why are you saying April instead of March? February, March is just too soon? You've got 2
So,
scenarios
yeah.
here.
Well, so we've had a working group with the town of Groton and the school district, and we've talked about the potential of having an early election. And so the date that Groton, well, the date that we all landed on, as part of this, working group was the 2nd of April. I think the rationale for the 2nd of April was that it gave us time to plan and educate, basically. So, if we were to do it March 5th, it just, the rush is on, I guess. You know, we'd have to, the select board would have to call the special town meeting this Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so,
and we could.
no, that's, we absolutely could.
Yeah, it's still a month, 45 days before the meeting.
Yep.
Let me just go off in a different direction, right? From a budget standpoint, right? That school number, is that locked in?
I think it's,
They're not gonna, we're gonna get a new superintendent on July 1, and new superintendent's gonna say, oh, those numbers,
there is
I
a,
want new ones.
I think it's locked in,
Okay,
pretty close to being locked in. There's one item, the capital number, that in this budget is flat. That's based on conversations I've had with the schools. Now, that number could change. That number is not
It
accurate.
looks like we're trying to pull a fast one.
The operating budget and the
And
debt
that like
budget
the
is.
no's out more than the yeses.
The other, I should have mentioned, the Lowell Tech number is a variable we have too. We have, based on, email correspondence I have from them, we've level funded their budget, which they think will be sufficient, but there may be movement in. There are areas where there may be movement up and down in this budget right now, but I don't think, anything that's gonna make a remarkable difference in this budget. This is pretty close to what it is.
Mhm.
This is very close to what it is.
Yeah. And then when we run this override, are we putting anything into stabilization?
No.
Nothing. So the 3-year override's gonna get us nothing into stabilization.
Nothing other than, no, but don't forget, this override puts us in a much, unless something catastrophic, yeah, exactly. Unless something unexpected or catastrophic happens where we couldn't anticipate, this budget does free up $300,000 in free cash, which we also use
Right.
as our reserve. So that's a significant improvement in our financial position than.
Can free cash be put into stabilization?
Yep,
Mhm.
Is that a town vote, or is it?
yep.
Yeah.
It's not, we can't just decide, okay, the advisory board, whatever.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think I'd have to think more about the timing. Like, I worry that our experience has been people often say we're trying to pull a fast one. That's the default message we get, even with all the PR we could possibly do. And, you know, amongst all this good work here is have we thought of any like immediate, like sell a fire truck? I mean, I'm using it as a rhetorical point, but like something that offset 875K year one. I mean, like we got to be looking at every short-term solution we possibly can, because we're going to have to anyways.
But that's the problem.
It's a short-term
I mean,
solution.
really, that's what's caused this problem. I'm
Sure,
yeah.
but what happens when the voters say no? You're going to be looking at them anyways,
No.
or
I-
laying
You
everyone
really
off.
shouldn't, though. I mean, the truth is, like, if the voters say no, you shouldn't be looking at short-term solutions.
Right.
Short-term.
But they also said no to adding a police, like they don't want the police officer. They don't want the per diem firefighter. And, you know, Chief Orr can probably illustrate whether that's been a substantial change in service, but here we are adding it back in. I've
Well-
heard you say this before, where you're like, the voters spoke, but here we are trying to backdoor it
They
in.
did speak, and that vote was what,
But we're not
6
backdooring.
votes
Wait, wait,
different?
wait.
So-
But like,
Wait. We are not backdooring this in. We're talking about it in a public
Right.
session right now.
sure,
And we're gonna be talking about this as we approach whatever meetings, we're approaching to present this and ask for support and approval. But we're certainly not backdooring it in. I mean, that's not the right word.
I think if anything, this is more transparent
I
by
agree. Yeah, I do.
bringing it forward as a standalone subject. I mean, you want to stick with tradition, I agree with that, but this is an extenuating
You
circumstance
bet.
that needs to be heavily focused on in and of itself. You want people to come to the town meeting and focus on this and not get up and leave after the one vote that they're for at a larger town meeting. Just that we've never had to ask for this much before, because we're in a really, really dire situation that I think this warrants to have the singular focus.
There was a lot of advisory talk about that, related to adding add-backs. Like, is this the right time to try to add back police and fire when, you know, we're asking for such a large request for an override? And that's a fair conversation. And, you know, as I said to advisory, I mean, this is a version of the budget that I've put together. It's not necessarily the final version.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here and that's why advisor is here to make those decisions. I mean, from my perspective, I don't think that having one overnight police officer and having one fire position during the day is safe. I just don't, for our employees and for the residents, I just don't think it's a safe scenario for them. And I don't think it's a fair position to put our employees in, to be honest. If a firefighter during the day gets a call for a fire and he or she gets in the truck and drives to the fire, what are they gonna do? They can't do anything until someone else arrives. They
Right.
literally just sit, they need to sit in the truck.
Wait.
Well,
And that's a really unsafe circumstance. Same thing with an overnight call of an emergency nature where something terrible happens. We have one officer, which we have, by the way, examples of, that we're sorting through now, just so people understand that. But that are terrible in nature, and one police officer is responding. It's just not a good scenario when you already have a ambulance emergency response that takes
20 minutes anyway.
15, 20 minutes. And overnight, you have a fully volunteer on-call fire department. It's a very precarious situation. This is my opinion, in my view. And to put the community in that situation, to put our employees in that situation, I don't like it, I'm not comfortable with. Again, having said that, I'm not the final decision maker here. So these are the recommendations. And I take my guidance from this board. So it's completely appropriate to tell me, I don't know what I'm talking about, and you need to make these changes. And I truly fully respect that role, and I'll make any changes that you think need to be made.
We
I
have
have
a
a
question. No, hang on, so we have a couple of questions. Bryn. No, Joni, Bryn first.
Who?
You go.
No, all right, go ahead, Joan.
Jason is 100% right. And, it's your job to do the right thing for the people in this town, to make sure that the police and fire, that they have a safe working situation, okay? That override lost by how many votes?
Yes.
Six votes. So there are 6 buttheads and probably a few more out there that, that don't get it. But, to heck with them, you need to do what's right for the town, for the people, for our, police and fire and the highway and whoever else. That stuff should be added back in and, call it a day. And if people gripe about it, well, too bad.
Bryn?
I was just thinking, about what you had said about petition and then what you guys had said about having standalone. From a town clerk's perspective, no town clerk really wants to hear, well, we'll just add a couple more elections.
You don't?
Not in 2020. Doing a dual election, like on March the 5th, where we have the presidential primary and we have a local ballot question, it is 100% doable.
It's 100% doable.
Oh, yeah.
On the March 5th?
Yep. And it's doable in April. But what concerns me is that if you were to wait until after your town meeting, so your town meeting is the second Monday, and then the annual town election is the fourth.
Following week,
Tuesday, yeah.
The third
following
Monday.
Tuesday.
Now you're cutting it really close to the end of the fiscal year. So what happened in Pepperell last year is that we had a special election happen after our annual town meeting, and then it failed. And then we had to have another special town meeting to figure out how are we gonna fund the budget before July 1st. So
That's a bad idea.
Maybe waiting until May, a tradition or not, spreading the word would need to happen, I think, before waiting until an annual town election. Only because at that point, you're just so close to the end of the fiscal year. And then now you have to have another town meeting to figure out how you're gonna fund this budget.
So this, I'm gonna just put my 2 cents in. This is as bad as we've ever had it. I've never seen it as bad as it is. And in my day, in corporate world, it needs to be addressed immediately or sooner. That's how I see it. And so the thinking is that we need to run this vote well in advance of when we need this money. I'm gonna tell you that the stress in town hall over this is pretty significant. It just is, right? And so we gotta get, we've gotta get a result, as a management team, we've gotta get a resolve to this and sooner rather than later. And to Leah's point, right, we've never seen this. And so it's an extraordinary measure, but it's an extraordinary time. I think we've got to grab hold of this sooner rather than later and get the stress out of town hall, because it's absolutely stressing people out. As far as police and fire, he has and I have, we've been out there and we've seen the stuff that goes on. I've been to calls where there's only one police officer and it's a violent situation. To not staff that position is not healthy for the police department or anybody else that goes to those calls, including the people that are responsible for the issue. There was a chimney fire Saturday afternoon, and fortunately, there were 4 people at the fire station, 2 chewing the fat and 2 on per diem. I don't know what would have happened if there was only 1 person there. That person may not have been able to drive the engine. I don't know. And so that staffing level needs to come back to that too, because it's putting the firefighters at risk. And I don't know what the homeowner would have said if someone showed up and said, yeah, the fire truck's coming behind me, it'll take a few more minutes. We owe, public safety to all these people, and we've got to refill those positions. And
I have been at calls where is the fire department?
Yeah.
Why aren't they here yet? That has happened many times throughout my career, because even before we had 2 per diems during the day, which is great now, it's extremely helpful and it's much safer for the people that live here. But after 4 o'clock, you don't know. It could be 20 minutes that your house is burning before the first drop of water hits it. And by then, it's gone.
And I want to reiterate that the 2 per diems we have is, I want to say artificial, but it is not in our budget to have those. As we know, someone came forward and donated money to get that position reinstated. That does not go forward. So the town residents have not actually experienced what it's like to have that 1 per diem on call only in an artificial way. It's probably not the right word I'm using here, but we were not supposed to have that 2nd per diem on in the budget. And someone did put the money forward, so they haven't really felt the impacts of that vote that was taken. And you're right, I did say the town voted for that, so we need to honor what they did. However, that vote was exceptionally close, 6 votes. So that means almost half the people wanted to have them there, and 6 more than half didn't. And that may not have been why they voted against it. You can't say that all of those, 400 plus people didn't want to have those. They may have been voting against it for other reasons. We'll just never know that. We do have an idea because of that resident survey that came back. Town services, do you have that? That was one of the most.
Police, number 1, fire.
Right,
Yeah.
we're one of the highest things that people thought funding should go towards.
But not
So
schools.
we have some data. Well,
But not schools.
well.
oh no, that's not true.
It's
Schools is in here.
third.
Well, yeah, no, schools is in here.
Yeah, no, I did.
It's in there, but it's
Yeah.
not the number 1
Right.
thing that people want to put
If
money
we,
towards.
just to give you some insight on that data too, if you look a little closer.
Remember,
at it,
the
look
age
at-
of the age buckets is broken out, so it's predominantly
Yeah.
people who are 65 plus, but based on national standards, don't have children in the school system.
And if you look at how because it was, in those cases, it was ranked, you ranked in order.
Mhm.
Schools still did have the highest number of number one votes. They just had much higher, low votes,
Mhm.
because I think there was a large population that just doesn't use the schools any longer, so it's not important to them. But if you look, if you ask the question differently and just said, rank your number one service, the outcome may have been different.
Yeah.
But even in any case, police, fire, schools, and then roads were the top four, which
Mhm.
we probably could have predicted,
Yeah.
if we were asked, so.
Better than that.
Well, when you look at this, at this data point, 95 people said the town budget and finances was their biggest priority, but 83 said school budget and finances. So, and the rest of the numbers just drop right off the table, where taxes are 34 people. So, the two most compelling issues are the town budget and finances is the first, and school budget and finances is really in second place, but
For that category.
yeah.
It depends on which
Exactly.
category you read.
No, it's like the single biggest issue facing Dunstable.
Yeah.
And so the school budget and finances scored pretty high.
Yeah, see
People,
that?
people,
Yeah, see that? in the
people
middle?
understand it.
Mhm.
People understand it.
But then when you go to this section,
Yeah.
please rank the importance of the following services. Police and emergency is number one,
Yeah,
and fire protection is number two, and schools is the third. So, we can cater this to how we want, but
Yeah, to serve
it's not
it.
as if the police and fire are last. No
Well,
one
it's-
cares about it.
Yeah,
it's an
It's high up
indicator
there.
for us.
It is an
We've never done one. And there's a lot of good information here. This thing is random. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's not scientific either, but
no, it's not,
it's
but
a good
it's
opportunity
certainly
for
a
people to
data
get
point.
feedback.
it's a pool.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And
back
do
to the
and do
point.
they like living here? How would you recommend Dunstable as a place to live? Well, 204 said yes. That's a knock it out of the
How
park.
many said no, how many said? it was-
25 said no.
They're just indifferent.
Those are the people-
selling their houses.
people that voted against you.
Right.
And to go back to finish my train of thought before I completely lose it. I have heard concerns about, especially people who have called the police and had an issue and are very concerned about the response time because of the lack, and especially if there was a larger circumstance happening, that if it required a second person, it would have been exceptionally different turnout. So,
And I don't disagree with adding it. I guess I think when I think of a couple meetings ago, we had I really want to put the emphasis on the schools and those folks to show up.
Well, I think that if we put that, in my opinion, that referendum question is going to drag those people out.
Yeah.
That's always been my belief. You guys have heard me say that from the get-go with it. Let's put the cards on the table and put that referendum question and get the school vote out to vote the thing through, because I mean,
another referendum?
no, same one.
Because you were
Same
talking
question.
before about a non-binding referendum.
It's a non-binding question.
Yeah, but that's a
What's
third
the
vote
question?
then.
What's the question?
Do you want the town to leave the Groton Dunstable School District?
Oh, I think we already got our answer.
That's gonna be on the ballot with
The
the.
referendum.
Fascinated by the responses by that one.
I love that.
It's gonna be closer than you think. So then my only last. other
If that
point-
vote comes back and says, yeah, we want you out, we're gonna be sitting there going, where'd that fuss come from?
Yeah. Recount.
Oh, come on.
Non-binding is
Election
the-
around, recount.
That's right.
I
Right.
do have to head out, so I just wanted, do you have any other questions about options, March, April?
No, but if you had, if,
But I wanna put this out there, with the elections the way they are now. So, this week, the Secretary of State's office mailed out over 1 million postcards to every registered voter in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to sign up for vote by now.
to the mail.
They pulled all the information, right? So now you have all of those out there. On that postcard, it says, vote by mail, all elections this year, just March the 5th. So if they click all elections this year, then they're gonna get a vote by mail ballot for the presidential primary. And then they'll get one for any local elections that you have. If you guys decided to do it on March the 5th, I believe that you're gonna see that your numbers are going to be a little bit higher in the total amounts of votes returned compared to what you just saw in November. Your vote by mail is probably, I think, and I don't know the exact number because I'm having a hard time finding those reports, but I do think that you're probably at a 60-40 split on people that go in person and people that just automatically vote by mail, whether it's no excuse or absentee. I think that for 2024, you're gonna be at about 40% vote by mail. So you are going to end up with a higher voter turnout for any local elections this year, any town, any municipality, because people are more likely to check off that all elections this year.
Let me ask this question, okay? If you had your choosing, knowing what we've just talked about, okay? And that, I think in this board's opinion, there is a sense of urgency around needing to get this done sooner rather than later, okay? The March 5th is it's March 5th, Super Tuesday, right? I think it is, right? Would you like, or would you prefer that we have that
All in one day?
all in one day, right?
Selfishly, I feel like I would rather have it in April, only because I'm throwing a lot of changes at the election workers for March. You know, there's no more paper list, it's gonna be iPads. You know, we just attended an election worker training that I had posted in Peckle, and the state came and did some training, and I think that the Dunstable election workers realized that, you know, it's not just me making changes, that the system hasn't been done correctly. So selfishly, I'd rather see it in April, but I have 100% no problem whatsoever in making it happen on March the 5th, if that's what you guys choose.
Do you have any?
Where do you
comments?
think we'll be with the budget by?
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks,
Thanks,
Brent.
Brent.
So advisories.
We're there now
They're gonna
with the
meet,
budget.
okay.
We're
Well,
right there.
advisories, I mean, they haven't fully approved it yet.
The advisory asked that we could coordinate a joint meeting
Okay,
between both boards. They wanted to shoot for the 31st, but they also said they could be flexible with that if needed, so. That was the identified next step for them.
Personally, I, as I said, Jason, you and I have had this conversation. This thing is gotta be done immediately or sooner. And so my thought is we try to run this on the 5th so that it's out and the stress is taken. If we're not successful at it, we've got time to recover, learn from what information we gather and, you know, go after it again. But if we are successful, then the stress of this is gonna go away. And then we can start thinking about some other things, right? Because this thing it's not good.
when is Groton doing theirs?
April 2nd.
Well, they're planning on April 2nd at the moment, but that's based on the underlying understanding that there's gonna be coordination with Dunstable.
Would they do theirs earlier,
I don't
if
know.
we did ours earlier?
They have a guiding parameters, just like, right, because I think there's some stuff in their bylaws for their process sometime. Just spitballing here in terms of what they have.
He needed to submit, I
Yeah.
think the town manager needs to submit a budget by the end of the calendar year. which
Yeah.
She did. And I'm not sure. I have not, by the way. The step in the process that has not been done, and I wasn't I didn't intend to do it because the impacts would be drastic. But there's not a balanced budget without an override. We don't have.
No, there's not, and that's-
At the moment, we don't have that.
No, there is not. In fact, it gets worse.
The
That's what I
town won't
mean, like,
function without the.
My point is, like, I haven't gone through the process of balancing the budget without the additional
Okay,
$875,000.
well, we would need that in order to.
Yeah.
Put this on.
Do we need that?
Well, you wouldn't, if you did a special, you wouldn't need to, you could just present the override
Okay.
budget,
All right,
without that. You could give like a, an order of magnitude of, hey, if we had to cut the entire amount,
Mhm.
if we had to cut based on, the size of the proportion in 65-35, the overall underlying deficit, like run the 3 scenarios, I don't know, you can do it a variety of ways, so.
so we don't have to actually present the balanced budget until,
So annual.
and,
Right.
And we feel confident, this is a loaded question.
Well, that is a load of confidence.
We feel confident that the school's locked in at at FY '26, it's 651, in fiscal year '27, it's 555.
That's the deficit number.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm trying to think of the night we had, almost 125 people here saying, well, just give it to us once and then don't come back and ask again. There are a couple of people in the back right of the crowd that were saying that. So I think the story to tell then is it's roughly, the override for 3 years is 1715 plus your annual 2%, 2.5%. So figure probably, is that $1,900 for next year? It's a lot of money, $2,000. Let's say it's
No,
round up
no, not next year.
No,
for 20.
phased out.
No,
this would be an
Phased out.
additional
Okay,
for the next 3 years.
Okay.
1,700
Yeah,
was the number.
over 3
For
years.
next-
Over 3,
Oh.
no,
But not-
at
713.
the end of the third year, that's what
The total.
that's 1,700 is
So
your
the-
number.
FY '25 is $713.
Yeah. 535,
535, 27,
462.
so that 1,700 is a total over the 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not an additional 1,700 each year.
No.
No.
Right.
That's the aggregate
Yeah,
at the end of the third year. And that's not including ratcheting the tax levy up by 2.5%.
Right.
Although I don't know what new growth is a revenue in of itself. What's that? You said something about new growth?
New growth is we estimate at $110,000 a year.
Yeah, but new growth is,
Construction.
right, it's a revenue stream.
It is, but you can, the law, Prop 2.5 allows you to increase the levy by that amount too.
Right.
Okay.
And having some extra, or possibly having some extra free cash, should allow us to focus on throwing some money into stabilization. Because stabilization hasn't had any new money in years.
And investing in our
Deferred maintenance.
assets. So you got it.
Invested in our what?
Deferred maintenance.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Is there benefit to doing it at the same time as Groton or before Groton, or should we not even consider that as a factor?
We all thought, I think there was some thought that having a coordinated approach where we're all working together with the same deadlines and for the same purpose would be helpful. There was some discussion on having like joint sessions, like large public meeting opportunities with all of us there,
Mhm.
one in Dunstable, one in Groton, where we, Mark would come over here, I'd go over there, and he would present, jointly what our finances were and
Mhm.
what we were asking for and why and all that.
Do
So I think
you,
there was some thought that would be beneficial.
do you want to talk to Groton and see if we were to do it in March, would they change their date? Or they're not set for the 5th of April 2nd rather?
I
Or are
know
they?
he's presented it to his board,
Mhm.
and they, I don't know, supported it, I guess. I don't know if they took any action or anything, but generally we're on board with the timeline. But, I also don't think that, prohibits him from modifying it if needed. I think there is a strong desire to have a coordinated approach. I don't know if they could, I mean, it would require them to post a meeting tomorrow for
Yeah.
Friday. Along with us.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it makes sense to have it coordinated if we can logistically work it out and, other than that, I don't really have any opinion which one. If it's easier for Bryn to do it in April, then I guess that's one reason. And if it works better to coordinate with Groton and they are set on doing it then that may be a second reason to do it then.
have we checked those dates with the school? Make sure Swallow Union's available for the town meeting?
No.
Okay.
No.
I only know because I remember sitting at that PTO meeting, they've got a lot going on
Yeah.
coming up.
Well, we could use, we could use the gym or we could use the cafeteria. There's plenty of space in there to have that meeting.
Yeah,
Or we could rent a trailer.
Yeah.
we do it here.
There you go.
There you
Show
Just thinking here, if both towns vote on the same day, or don't vote, say if Groton passes the override, and Dunstable votes later, well, I guess that might give the town a little incentive to vote to approve. But if they vote the same day and Groton doesn't pass it, and Groton hasn't passed an override for the school district in 20 years. So, I think there's, I don't think it's etched in stone that it's gonna fly over there. But we still need the override here. So,
But it doesn't happen unless Groton does it too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, because the number has to change for a second vote.
but if we
So, like,
both vote.
Maybe it goes down to 9% rather than 10 point
Yeah,
whatever
they
percent.
have to go back and do
If
that.
we vote for the override and they don't, then, we
Our levy.
get our money, right? And they have
Our
to,
levy goes up.
Yeah, we have excess funds.
nothing
then,
wrong with that.
We could use it.
at that point, doesn't the school district has to go back to the drawing board and maybe.
No, not necessarily.
Only if both towns don't again, right?
Or Groton goes for it again.
Yeah.
Well, like we saw with the capital
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could go for
It's just the
same
same
number.
Right, yeah.
You know, like the capital, remember when the capital failed, that 190 or whatever it was? And they said, we're not changing it, but we want you to revote because we don't think you did a good job.
They have no incentive to change anything.
Right.
They got everybody by the short hairs and, they have no incentive at all to lower their assessment. Only if the taxpayers in Groton say, this is enough. Enough is enough, and, who knows what will happen.
You don't know. There are all those different scenarios and
Yeah.
all the what ifs and maybes and all those other.
That's the one, if they, people come out, and if they voted down by a fairly good number, not 6 votes, but they voted down by a pretty good number, then I'll bet you any money that the school committee sharpens their pencil and goes back to the drawing board, rather than, just ignore what you were saying, a large number of people who voted no. It's difference between, a few people and, you know, a large number. So anyway, I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay.
Me too.
So when do we need to decide on this? Do we
Well,
want
if
to
you
reach
wanna
out
do
to
it March-
Groton?
If you want to do it March 5th, we need to decide tonight, because we need to post the meeting tomorrow morning.
Can we change that if we?
We could
Amend,
elect.
amend the date.
Amend the
We
date?
could, we have that latitude to do it. But right now, if we're gonna start with the 5th, that we've got to post on Friday to open that town meeting.
Looking at our calendar, that means it's like a PR blitz around Martin Luther King Day and President's Week, school vacation, and
There's always something, even in
it's
June.
snowstorm. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
dealing with,
Earthquakes.
I mean, really, would it make more sense to do it in
I
April
wish.
then, to give us more time to get info out?
We could have a more planned approach for April. This March is, full, pedal to the
Squeezing it
metal.
in.
Yeah.
I love the stress.
For the two reasons, our Bryn would prefer the 2nd. She said she could do March 5th, but it would be better for her. And if we're already having the presidential primary on the 5th, and they're gonna be struggling with the new technology they're having, do we really wanna add to the stress?
so the second's Easter Monday, so I'm not sure where she got that date from, but
The what?
Easter Monday is April 2nd,
It's Tuesday.
according to my iPhone, I was looking at the date.
Your iPhone need a new battery?
So Easter Monday is, and April Fool's is,
April 2nd is Tuesday.
yeah, sorry. Just trying to think of,
Just user error, wasn't the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
brain's tired.
Do you need a candy?
No. Wish that was a solution.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it makes it, it gives us a bit more opportunity to PR it out to people, have a couple open houses here and just have people ask questions.
Or even having, Brian Falk is doing a conflict of interest, public records, OML training next week. And I talked to him about give particular focus on conflict of interest as it relates to our involvement and ability to educate, whatever, for the override vote.
Yeah.
So where's that line? And so he's gonna go through a lot of that on the 17th. That's next week, right? Yeah.
January
Um,
17th.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah, time's flying by here.
I know. So,
Though it pushes it out, would it be better for the town hall staff to do it on the 2nd? Whatever the date in April?
April 2nd.
Yeah, would that give? I mean, I think of like police and fire can get word out to your constituents and gives a bit more time for the PR blitz from that end of things. It's going to be a 3-prong approach here. 4-prong, really.
Just send a card out to everybody that says, yeah, we're gonna vote whether or not to withdraw from the union. That's all you need to do.
I say we go with the April 2nd.
I would probably lean that way, just based on the town clerk. If she, it's really up to
Yeah.
her capacity, and she's done a pretty good job, so I'd like to support her. Though I hear Ron's point about sooner the better, and let's,
I do too,
Get
but
this
it's only,
rolling.
it's only a month difference, and there's still ample time.
I expressed my interest in it.
Yeah.
I'm not against April 2nd. I just think March 5th it just gets us off the table. But if that's what we want to do, I'll go with I have no issues with.
I don't really know the right answer.
Yeah, I don't
I don't think there is one. Really.
Just don't know the right answer.
I think having more time to really push it down to people's every different level they're at, and they can ask all the questions, get them all out, I think helps us rather than hurts us, right?
And if it fails, we still have another month to
Yeah.
try again.
Well, it's, okay, but let's, just to that point, we gotta go back and listen to what Jason just said about conflict of interest. It's what we can do as a board, or the elected boards can do, is pretty much not very much in terms of promoting it.
Yeah,
you know?
But we can offer more information in, what are your questions, what are your concerns? Can we try to address those again?
You could, absolutely, yeah.
there could also be an advocacy group that maybe they come together on their own and they put a sign out in front of the town hall on March 5th saying, don't forget to vote on April 2nd. Maybe someone in the crowd's listening.
You okay with that?
Okay.
I think you want it anyway, right?
I like whatever you like.
Yeah.
I like whatever the board likes.
Alan?
Good neutral answer.
One is that certainly the idea of advocacy group or whatever makes sense. And to have something, let's say, neighbor to neighbor, just everybody who's willing to sign it, who can, because of conflict and all that, just get on there, read a paragraph as to, or two, as to what the issues are, what's at stake, and all of these people are asking you to get as broad spectrum of humanity on there as you can. So they say, my God, Cheney and Simmons agree, you gotta go for it. You know?
Which Simmons?
Go play Powerball.
The other thing is, you gotta remember what Mark Twain said, in regard to March or April. Don't put off until tomorrow what you can just as well put off until the day after.
I've heard that. I have heard that. I knew exactly where you were going with that.
Wise words from Mark Twain.
Okay,
Okay.
Then we can put a blurb about it in the, what's going on.
Yep, I can add that.
Yeah, you want to get as low as you can.
Yeah.
And start thinking about it now. And as I say, get as broad a spectrum of humanity on there as you can.
Do you want to organize that for us?
Why?
Yeah.
There's enough to do, but I'd be certainly willing to put my name wherever and to help out. But I think it's vital. Absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Just can't come back a couple of years from now and ask for more. If we're gonna need a fire station in a couple of years, like, big picture here.
Not if we sell the trucks, then we won't need a thing to.
You might as well.
yeah, we'll gain the money and not need the fire station. I think it's a great idea.
But what's like, I think you can read between the lines. My point is like, we don't have even if the short-term solution isn't viable, the only option we're offering is raising people's taxes.
Because
that's
that
all-
really
that's
is
all we
our
have.
only viable
Right,
option.
which is
Yeah.
really frustrating,
It's
I think,
awful,
for
but-
taxpayers.
Completely agree with you.
People aren't paying enough to fund their children's education,
Yeah, I mean, the
That's
assessment's
right.
criminally low. Like, I hear you, like, I mean,
you know, they have to realize.
Right.
It's time to cough it up. Who said it?
part of the advocacy group.
And if I could say one thing to that, I think the way that issue is important, like, okay, all you're doing is asking for more money. And to that, I would say, we've regionalized where we can. We have saved money. I'm just talking about on this side,
Yeah.
because that's what we can control about. We've regionalized treasurer collector, we've regionalized town clerk. We just entered, the board just approved going into the Patriot
Mhm.
dispatch, which is gonna save about $100,000 a year. Those are real meaningful things that have saved money on this side. We are now going through municipal fees. I know that's another increase, but that's a different way to generate revenue. We are kind of user-specific revenue. And we've gone through, some departments have surveyed, and we're doing analysis on is there room to increase, to generate more revenue? It's not gonna solve the problem, folks, but just in the vein of, are we doing all that we can? We are looking at that, and we will have at some point, hopefully for this coming annual town meeting, proposals to look at,
So yes, we
to
are
look at
doing
some of
that.
that. And yeah, I mean, I'm just.
We are, I mean, there is, you
I
may
just-
not see it, but it is happening. And your report, I thought, was great. It outlined all of that and what is being saved and,
And, you know, one of the, if you look at the survey, the other issue that people actually were expressed some support for, which was looking at additional appropriate economic growth, economic development. And that's something the board has focused on and created these committees that we're gonna get started hopefully at some point soon. So those things are, again, does it solve FY '25? It absolutely does not, obviously. But there are other things we're looking to do. It's just that there's not, like we've said a million times, there's just no magic bullet for a number of this size.
Yeah.
I'm part of a regional, NEMCOG puts together like that regional CEO group with, in the district. And one of the other communities is dealing with financial, actually, all of them are, but to different degrees. I guess.
Yeah.
And one of the town administrators sent an email out asking for, hey, are there any creative ways, you know, what are we looking at? And someone sent a report on, hey, we had a committee, these are some recommendations for revenue generation that they came up with. It's the same, there's no magic bullet. I look at it because I'm like, oh, maybe there's.
yeah,
It's all of the things that we're talking about.
right.
And then some other things that just aren't options for us because, you know, we don't have restaurants for meals taxes. We don't have hotels for hotel tax. So we're all in the same boat in a lot of ways. And I think, you know, this board, and I think staff and advisory and everybody, we're all doing everything we should be and can to keep this number as manageable as possible. But I understand it's a large number.
Okay, we all set with this?
You have a hand up in the crowd.
I'm sorry.
I think it would be helpful, there are options that people who are fixed incomes and that sort of thing, there are different options in town that people would help people who, you know, would otherwise be inclined not to vote to have their taxes raised. And I think it would be important that we know what they are. Okay, I know there's the something for the veterans. There's something, I spoke to Bonnie about it at one point. There's a variety of things. I know we have the trust funds that, you know, help people. She had a list of things, you know, there's work, whatever you call it, town work off. There's a variety of things, and it would be helpful that we know what they are. So that when somebody, you know, somebody, I don't know, I think it was Facebook or one of those things, somebody had asked about, you know, about the work off, that her, she was asking for her father. And, so, you know, I, people don't know that any of these options are, you know, it's not like it's gonna pay $1 million, but, you know, maybe it might help a little bit. So I think we need to know what they are, so that,
We compile a list of that. There's also one through the CPC that people every year can go in and request for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
affordable housing, you know, I know, I think in Groton, they do, some kind of, affordable housing, what's the word I want?
Exactly.
Is it that they use maybe affordable TPC, affordable housing, you know, funds, CPA funds to to help people out.
Yeah.
So.
We got some money there, we could do that. Unrestricted funds.
Especially with the,
Yeah.
affordable housing. All right, thanks, John, that's a good idea. You can compile that list, yeah.
All right, moving along. Meeting minutes, 10:25, 11:07, 11:21, and 12:07.
They all look good to me.
Amen. I make a motion to approve, meeting minutes from 10:25, 11:07, 11:21, and 12:07, 2023.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, item 5, number 5, Cinco de Mayo. Appointments, Economic Development Committee and the Land Use Committee. Mr. Jason.
We've advertised these two committees and I think on every channel that we have available to us, and we have received some decent interest. I think we have, let's see. Oh, this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we have Land Use Committee, we have 7 interested, and Economic Development Committee, we have 6, I think. Yeah. There were a few people who expressed interest in doing either or both. And so I've included kind of a list of those individuals and then their emails and any additional backup that they've provided. We also have the Master Plan Implementation Committee that I think we've either received 1 or 2, so I'm gonna do one more push on that.
Yeah,
And then we'll hopefully have something for the board next meeting.
it's been nice to see the interest, and it's some new names, which is,
A lot of new
Very
names, which
positive.
is what we, right, exactly.
Yeah.
You bet.
so I think that's exciting for the town. Do you, like, how do we, I mean, I'm excited that there's, like I said, the variety of names, and I think it's a nice way of putting those pools together. How do we, are you gonna lead the kickoff meeting, Jason? Do you want a select board member to kick off the first meeting to get it rolling? And then so they can start to create structure and give them that type of guidance, or how do you want that to shake out? Or what do you guys think? How do you think it should shake
I
out?
think it'd be great if the board members could kick them off, I really do.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go and support too.
Yeah.
But if willing, available, all that, I think that'd be great.
I'm happy to do whatever. Like, I know, like, Kathy Snyzik was on the master plan committee, and she knows a great deal about the sort of ins and outs of the town, so she's a great person to have involved. And then like Jeff Rosen's been great. I don't know Nassim or John, but Kate McNutt's been interesting, and Dan Tully's a local business person, so, I think it's some good, personalities to bring together, so I'm happy
So
to help them anyway, so.
I think at this point, we're gonna see if we can go back out for one more sweep of people that may want to join. Is that the plan?
I can do
For
that.
the master plan, not for this, right?
I
Not for
think we're
these
just
two.
gonna bring them in and let them know these positions are open and see what.
For the master plan implementation committee, these are,
These are pretty full, yeah.
we've got people for
We
these two.
We have 1 opening on the Economic Development Committee still, and then we have the Implementation Committee. We could do one last push for all 3 and then come back and invite all of them to the next meeting. It's
Fine with me?
or we could, whatever, yeah. for the
If
board.
you want, it's fine.
Yeah, and then, and just thinking forward a little bit, we've got to create a charge. I don't think we've created a charge yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We sort of roughed it out.
We have a framework. for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
so
Yep.
these folks are gonna want to be charged.
Yep.
Right, and so I think individually, or we can do it as a group, bring these folks all in and just talk through these different, EDC and land use and then charge these guys, formally with, what their objectives are.
Yep.
And then some expectation as to a reporting structure.
Okay,
Somebody's gonna take on the chair's role, and we need to define that within that group, they need to carve out who it is that's gonna be a chair, and, these are gonna be public meetings, right? So,
Yeah.
we gotta have meeting minutes that are gonna say more than started meeting, had meeting, and finished meeting.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, no, that's.
Those are
So all
informative.
that needs to go into the charge,
I know what
right?
group you're talking about.
That sounds like a.
And then we're gonna carve these out so that we get a clearly defined role and responsibility between these groups so that there's not overlap where land use might think that somehow they're tied into economic development. We need to set that expectation so these guys are not, they don't have overlaps, and that'll all go into the charge, right?
Sounds good.
But at the end of the
So-
day, they may tie in together.
There's gonna
Yeah.
be some overlap, and we're gonna offer them guidance as to how to best work through that in the charge, right? Maybe a liaison from one of planning board, or maybe a liaison from, some other board that can assist in being sure that we've got forward progress and not a lot of this, I can't do that because it's their responsibility. We don't want to get into that. So for our next meeting, let's be sure that we get the charges for each of these groups, out and, cast a net, see what you get for other people.
Okay.
I would ask that we reach out to all these people and let them know, because I think Kathy Sneezek was asking.
They all have received an email basically essentially acknowledging it and saying we'll be in touch with them. But I think there are some people who are wondering, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I can do that. I can send an email.
Just do it, yeah, absolutely. So they're all in the know and they're not thinking that
Yes,
we're not paying attention to what they're doing.
definitely. I'll do that.
It's cool. It's nice to see
Yeah.
participation. So.
Okay, item 6, ARPA fund
Ron?
allocation, I'm sorry.
I just, the listing, I'm assuming, are you using the same list that was in the master plan as, a member of all these different committees and then only one at-large person?
For the
So-
implementation group?
Yeah. So for the master plan implementation committee, they identified specific boards and committees and then one at-large position. That was the composition of that group. The other two are anybody with preferred areas of experience, background, expertise. So, yeah.
So it's not, I'm not sure why the master plan committee decided that, go with only one at-large person. But, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if your list, allows for people who aren't on committees, because if you're talking, there's a bunch of new people, well, that's great. But, if they're not on, other committees, then I was curious what was going on there, so, good, okay, thank you.
Cool.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so I think everyone knows over the last two rainstorms, we experienced leaks in the attic. And coincidentally, when we were having the ceiling work started,
Well,
that
that all
was one
comes
of the
together.
rainstorms where we experienced leaks. So, the first time we thought, maybe it was a fluke, because that was a really, really hard, long storm. But second time, we realized it wasn't a fluke. So, before we complete the ceiling repairs, we had, a roofer come in and repair the roof. Mike McDonald, who's done work for the town in the past. And so I'm hoping the board will consider paying this invoice through ARPA funds. basically reallocate funds from the MS4 storm permit through, to this invoice.
Yeah, I have no qualms here.
No.
It is what it is.
Okay, Clark?
It is, but can I ask a question?
Yeah,
So this guy's getting this $7,500.
Yeah.
The slate roofing guy.
Yeah.
Is the roof tight?
yeah, I mean, we just got snow, nothing, we got nothing.
So we'll find out tomorrow morning if the roof's not tight.
Well, we will, but we didn't, through the snowstorm, we didn't get anything.
Okay.
We did. And he, to his credit, he was here today, checking.
Yeah.
Do you want a hedge run? Maybe wait? to
No, we gotta pay
authorize- I mean, maybe we can wait a week.
No.
I will tell you, if we're getting water, tomorrow morning,
You'll be the first phone call.
he'll fix it.
Yeah.
He was great. He was great.
So do we have a motion?
Yeah, sure. I'll read this one. Move to approve the reallocation of ARPA funds, changing the $170,000.28 earmarked for services to comply with the requirements of the MS4 stormwater permit to $93,570.28, leaving a balance of $74,734 for MS stormwater permit compliance, and earmark $7,500 to pay for the invoice from Mike McDonald for repairs to the town hall roof.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank him for his diligence.
I'll mention one thing while he was up there, the chimney, which apparently is not a chimney. He did mention and focused on that as a cause of the leaks and
It's
suggested
coming down the trunk of it, yeah.
that, I mean, apparently it's a plywood box with stick-on brick. Can't tell from the street, but that's what it is, he said. So he said
Is
that,
it necessary?
he said that it would, in his opinion, he thinks it will hold for 2 years, but probably not much longer than that. In his opinion, we should remove it in slate over. But that's a whole nother project. for
Yeah,
another
and that's
day.
something we should get the historic
Oh.
commission involved in,
Absolutely.
because why that's
Let's find
facade
out.
up there is interesting.
I'm sure it was a chimney at one point, and they just wanted to
Yeah.
keep
Keep the
it
appearance of it.
there.
Yeah.
Historically, yeah, but anyway, just, I figured
Interesting.
I'd mention that.
All right.
Common victula license renewals. We have several of them. Dunkin' Donuts, Dunstable Gas and Convenience. I don't know, Casual Cafe and Goss Farm.
Casual cafe.
Yeah,
What they go
That's
by.
their LLC.
it's an LLC for the farmhouse.
Oh.
Yeah, Casual Cafe.
No issues here. It's the same every year, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is just a
do we need to sign these?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'll move to approve the common victualler licenses for 2024, expiring on December 31st, 2024, for the following businesses: Dunkin' Donuts at 238 Pleasant Street, Dunstable Gas and Convenience at 238 Pleasant Street, Casual Cafe LLC Farmhouse Cafe at 17 Pleasant Street, and Goss Farm Incorporated at 446 Pleasant Street, subject to the verification of current food service permit issued through the Dunstable Board of Health and receipt of current certificates of inspection from the building department, certification of filing state tax returns, and the annual license fee of $25.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Next is Town Hall plaque. These two items, the Town Hall plaque and the time capsule, are an initiative that's come to me. And so the Town Hall plaque would be a plaque that would be bronze and that would commemorate the 350th anniversary of the town. And right now, other than those little flags that we had, a lot of people don't even know the anniversary date of the town.
Yeah.
And so the plaque would be a bronze plaque, and it's going to identify the date of incorporation and the date of the 350th. We're gonna put the names of the 350th committee on that plaque.
Mhm.
And have it mounted someplace externally in the building. It's on the front or the side, I don't know. And the plaque is a donation. It's not gonna cost town any money to put it in.
Cool.
Just need to go through memorials committee.
No, I wouldn't think it's gonna go through them, but probably through,
Will it be on the exterior of the building?
yeah, probably through
Historic?
historical.
Gotta
Yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
We should probably check with this.
We will,
Memorials,
'cause-
memorials.
Yeah.
It is a memorial,
Oh, absolutely it is,
so
yeah.
it should go through them.
Yeah, and so we'll do that, but along with that also comes up the issue of a time capsule. And a lot of towns have them, right? They dug one up at the State House back about a year ago, didn't even know existed, right? And it pulled out all kinds of neat stuff. Kathy, has got some proficiency with time capsule. And so what I want to do really is get, historical and Kathy together, because I personally have no experience with a time capsule. The only one I know of that's buried is we did at 1 Beacon Street in downtown Boston. And was put in 30 years ago to be opened in 50 years. And I know where it is, and it's got a little memorial around it. And I know what's in it, but I don't know what it's made of and how does it go in the ground. And 50 years later, do you pull it all out and everything in it is just schmutz? I have no idea. So the plan is, I think, we're gonna get historical involved in this, and Kathy, and maybe the 350th. Sue, you guys had some discussion around this?
Yeah, we did it initially, it was kind of on our list of things, and then we just never, with everything else, we just never kind of executed on it. But it was on the radar.
So I think what the ask is gonna be that someone has to have some proficiency with what that capsule is made out of, and how does it stay in the ground for
And
that
where
many
does
years?
it go?
And where would it go? Right, where would it go? And how does it get memorialized? Like,
Who put what in it?
yeah, what goes in it? Exactly, exactly.
Your
But
gavel?
It could.
Picture of Ron.
Picture of me, great. But I think that they talked about it, it didn't, it didn't go in, yeah, that's gonna have my face
Yeah.
inscribed on it. And so I think just to further this discussion, we'll start with this tonight, but I think what we're gonna do is have some conversation with, historical and get them involved in it, as well as Kathy, who had, when I talked with Kathy about a month ago, I think, I could be wrong, she had some understanding as to the structural integrity, what the thing looks like. I don't know, my mother had a strong box in the house, is that what it's gonna be? We're gonna put a strong, probably nothing will survive it, right?
Yeah. It's a fun idea, and I think it's good to acknowledge, the town and the hard work of that group, and just sort of
Yeah,
keep tabs on those things.
yeah, and so what we'll do is, going forward, we'll bring them in and have a discussion, and maybe between now and
Piece
then,
of chocolate.
I'll talk to the plaque guy and see if he'll do a rendering of it.
Sounds good.
I thought the same thing for the 113 project, because I mean, for all the times I butt heads with Mike Martin, he did a killer job on that project. Like, he was so dedicated to making that, and it looks beautiful. Like, I often thought there ought to be something there to recognize his sort of steadfast dedication to that project. Because it's, even in Pepperell, they're looking at that project, they're like, how did you guys get that project done the way you did? I'm like, Mike Martin.
A lot of work with a lot of boards building up to that.
Yeah. And, and
There's 7 years in the running, and there are a lot of boards that had very strong influence in.
even just like the coloration of the
Sidewalk.
and the guardrail, like.
That
people-
was from conservation and historic.
And-
Mike implemented here, yes.
Yeah.
He deserves the kudos, but There are a lot of other people that were involved with that, too,
Yeah.
that made it happen.
But it's just such a vital part of the town too, that road, right? So it's good. I like Ron's idea of recognizing those efforts. I think it's good.
Yeah, we don't have, I mean, we have nothing, around that's unique to the town.
Yeah.
When we had the parade out here, there were several people there, including past board members that went, when's the town's date? And I'm like, I have no idea, ask her. And so it would be nice if we had a plaque in front. that you can just look at it and go, oh, it's 1673 or August, whatever the.
October 14th.
Is that what it is? October 14th. 1673 up until,
Is this another plaque now, or is this the plaque for the 300?
That'll be on that same plaque.
There's two signs that say 1673, one.
There are, one right in the center by the wheel,
yeah,
and one over at the little schoolhouse.
From the Mass Historical back in the 30s.
back in the 1930s,
1930s is when those were down, every town.
those,
The one now
Yeah.
across the street,
Oh.
the one down in over at the schoolhouse. that was
Yeah.
done in the 1930s.
the one I think I think both of these signs are not the originals. The originals were cast iron. And I think you're gonna have to help me out here.
Those are very heavy.
No, I think those are plastic now.
No, they're
No.
not.
No?
They were
No.
redone just recently with
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember.
CPC money, that's the real deal.
Yeah, those are not
Totally
plastic.
redone,
I've-
and it was expensive,
Yeah.
and it was worth
Because I think the original signs were cast iron,
Yep.
right?
it. So these
So
are the originals.
These are, yeah.
Those are,
They've been restored.
I thought she said she changed them
Budget
over.
$50,
No.
I don't know, about $50, but
Wow.
10.
Bet you a chocolate.
10.
That's a chunk.
Is the other sign in front of the dog pound? No.
Behind it,
Yes,
yeah.
Is that where the other one is, right?
there used to be, as you come into town,
And you
the
couldn't-
point was recently that they needed to be redone, number one. Number two, nobody with the traffic today could stop and read them. So they said, well,
Right.
let's, Carol Baker.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Yes, she is most things. And, so anyway, there they are, all refurbished, ready for another 100 years or so, and, they're the originals. And then we've got the two
They are.
signs that every town has, when we were incorporated, and people can read, why they can read it and remember it.
Does the pound have a new sign?
The pound itself,
Yeah,
I don't think it's new. I think it probably used to be
The
repainted.
town pound sign was, it was historical sign, probably did that, probably Teddy or something, but,
Yeah,
the sign needed to be
it
replaced.
needs some,
yeah, it needed something, and, people don't, when I talked with Carol, and that's a while ago, when these cast iron signs sat at the highway garage for a long time. They did,
They were there for a bit.
yeah, they were there for a bit. And then, when her and I talked about putting this sign over here in front of the wheel, so if people were at concerts on the common, they could read a little bit about.
Yeah.
But along with that came the pound. Most people drive by the pound, they have no idea what that is. They drive by and go, and yet there's a lot of history behind that pound.
Well,
Right.
true.
Yes. And I thought we had put a sign
there's not a sign of description of
of what it
its
was
purpose.
used for.
No, there's just a sign that says pound
Pound.
and date.
Yeah, I thought
And
there was
that's
gonna be a
neat.
sign that explained the pound was for lost animals to get put
Well,
into
and
the
then
sign.
we're gonna need a sidewalk so people can get to it,
To the pound?
to the pound.
Yeah,
And then we'll need flashing lights to show
off
where
the-
the crosswalk is.
We're off the rails
Yeah.
here. We're spiraling.
All right, report.
all right, so
No.
that's enough of that.
Looks good.
We'll go from there.
Carry on.
Caption.
While we're traveling down memory lane, I'll be very brief. You mentioned the, town shed, as we used to call it. Well, it used to be the only town shed. Well, that's the Parker School originally, from the original 5-1 school. There's not much left of it, but, at any rate, it looks like hell. And we have to spend a little money neating it up. Not to restore it, because most of the original school is gone. If you look at it carefully, you'll see that the brickwork to about 4 feet high is beautiful. After that, it's slapdash and sloppy, and that's because it burned back in the 20s or 30s, and they decided they still wanted to use it for something, so they put the bricks back up, somebody in a very casual manner, and so forth. But if you look at the original brickwork, you say, by God, that was a nice building. It's added, but the point is that it ought to be either taken down or at least make it look halfway decent.
Not something you can use CPA.
Yeah, it is.
Probably not. I mean, that would be stretched.
Yeah, it's
Because most of the real
We-
historical buildings.
It's 1930s. It's that, if it's town owned, we could use CP.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
we could definitely.
We had any money.
If we had money.
Oh, yeah.
No, CPA money. we could
Yes,
use.
plenty of CPA.
Yeah, we could.
Okay, well.
If there's historic value.
I mean, the bill,
Yeah,
that bill,
Last
Restoration,
remaining schoolhouse.
gray area.
Something to throw out there.
well, let's put that on the to-do list, all right? Because that bill, people have no understanding of the history behind that bill. We're making it better. Keep having.
Spend the night here, and you work on it.
That's right. Someone set up a cot for this guy.
Yeah.
But I would,
Let's see if we
I would
can get a, put a page on the Union School here.
Alan, have you been in that building? What's inside? At one point in time, there was, the message boards were in there, right?
It's just a.
It's empty?
It's just, well.
No, there's stuff in there.
It's a
Yeah, but-
storage shed for the chippers in there, I believe.
The chipper?
I think the chippers in there, and they might have moved some stuff out, brought it to the,
They always get very nervous when you talk about it because they're afraid you're gonna take it away from them. They start things and they call them the weather scan.
A lot of it's in this one, never
I
mind.
believe
You said it was put stuff in there, having Dave Nickel.
That's another building that it's lost in
Go in, see if
time.
anyone's there. No one's
I
in
mean,
there.
Well, that's a good
I
sound
know,
building.
and of course, someone who needs to go back in, they could have a key.
River Street,
It's actually in great shape, yeah.
did they fix the roof?
So she's,
I was up there recently. It looked fine.
Two of the roofing panels were ripped off.
4x4s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the water drains in the building. When? I don't know, talk to Dave Kelly.
Yeah, they just use the track.
The roof is steel.
Yes, it keeps-
It's a metal roof.
The barn.
For better
91
words.
River, and they go all the way down, it's on the right over there, right? There were two roofing panels that were pulled off in the storm. I don't know if it was got put back,
Okay.
but maybe it was just open to the weather. Okay, town administrator's report.
We've covered a lot of what's already in here, so we kind of just skipped through a bunch of this. Project to replace the police station floors out to bid. Bids are due next week on the 16th. Plans for 41 Lowell Street have been distributed to everybody. Sue, is it finalized the 24th? Is that
Yeah,
confirmed?
Wednesday, the 24th at 6:30 is the technical review.
So we're pulling that together on the 24th. And on the 16th, Planning Board and Affordable Housing Committee are meeting jointly to review. Resident survey results, are available. We posted those on the website, so anyone interested, go check them out. Another survey for the Union Building reuse is published and available to take, so anyone who hasn't completed that, please do so. That is being closed on the 13th. And then February 8th, there's a plan for a second public meeting to go through some recommendations based on all the information we've gathered. To date, tax rate's been approved by the Bureau of Accounts. You've seen the trainings that we're doing, those are coming through. We're doing the open meeting law, public records, conflict of interest, 17th. We're doing a procurement training that is also being done by Brian Falk. And then we have a couple other trainings that are being offered through our insurer, Maya. And those trainings were selected based on a survey that we conducted with employees on where their interests are and what they thought would most benefit them in the workplace. I don't know if you had a chance to go through the Board of Selectmen annual report.
I have, yeah, but I will.
So I put that together to take a look and,
I thought you did a
got
great
the-
job on that.
Yeah, I thought so too, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very good.
so if there's any changes or anything, just let me know.
I had just one recommendation is to add the select board name change.
And I did,
Yeah,
that
okay.
is in there now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And then, yeah, capital plan, I've updated the capital plan, which I think I sent out to everybody.
Mhm.
And, I've had a preliminary conversation with the chair of capital planning. And so I expect to have a meeting with them at some point mid to late January.
Cool.
Anything else?
That's enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
You
all.
guys got anything? Old business, new business?
We don't have, when's our next marching orders for those blue bins? 'Cause I know they were plowed out and they look.
I think what we need to do is just, we gotta meet with Mike Martin.
Okay.
I think the home for the main,
At the highway garage.
there was a retirement party for, Mary Beth. And, oh, believe me, I heard all about the bins not needing to go at the library.
I'll bet you do.
I thought, I had plenty of both of my ears were full. They were like, so I think that we're probably just gonna put those bins, we'll talk with them first, in front of the, where Jodine would park his car.
Mhm.
Well, I don't think Jodine's going there anymore, but there's that space in the front. I think that's gonna become the home for those things.
Okay.
There's a fence where the bus is parked. How much of that property belongs to the town?
No, I don't know. Alan may know, I don't know.
Alan's going-
Just, I saw them plowed out. They look nice plowed out. I just didn't know if we had to
There's
revisit
a
that.
fence that
No, I
sticks
think we're
out
gonna move them
there.
over there. We just need to get what
That would
happened
be
close to the
perfect, to
loop.
put it up against the fence. She'd have to park her bus somewhere else. But I don't know.
That might be Riepel's property.
That might be rear pal.
That might be Riepel. Yeah.
I wish we could use the post office, but that's probably just too challenging to think of.
I mean, you could reach out and see.
Oh, God, you have to go to, you have to call Biden.
You'd be surprised, sometimes, it depends on the brand, I'm serious, in Marblehead, we negotiated a deal like that with the local post office for land swap. It was like the easiest thing, I couldn't believe it. It depends.
But they may get in the way, I mean, where they would go is right along the access that would be going into the mud district.
Yeah,
So that doesn't really solve the problem.
I think we're just gonna get them out of there, put them over, but where that highway location is. There's the veterans office was there. It's still there in content, but the veterans agent doesn't go there anymore. And so I think we're gonna put those.
You don't have a map of that property?
Yeah, I'm sure
I'm
we
sure,
can,
yeah,
Somewhere.
we can figure that out easily.
yeah.
Anybody got anything else? You guys got anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Jason, be very careful driving home.
Yeah, it's a bad.
We are having freezing rain. We just gotta, my pager's
Is this
going
off?
nuts with freezing
Soup?
rain.